Hello and welcome to my first ever YouTube video. My name is Kika, and on this channel I will be mainly discussing all things acting related and my experience of drama school and all the little bits and bobs that you might not ever hear about. I want to be very honest about my experience. However, this video, and this is one of hopefully many videos in a series, will be focused on the self-publishing aspect of my life. Essentially, I have self-published a poetry book, and it was quite a long and interesting experience, and I thought I might as well make a video and share it with everyone because I think a lot of people are thinking about it. They don't want to go through the kind of traditional way of publishing because unfortunately at times it is a very long process, much longer than self-publishing. And also it can be expensive because at times you have to invest your own money, which unfortunately as a broke, graduate, I don't have. So I was like, what is the cheapest thing I can do in order to make this book happen? So I decided to self-publish, and I wanted to kind of, just go into the details, kind of explain the process. I think a lot of people might not know what the process of self-publishing might be, and kind of, just give a little list of things that I thought might be quite useful for people to know, to consider if they are looking to, go down this path. And it's a wonderful path once you get there. However, it can be a bit of a rough path along the way. So you just gotta buckle up and, enjoy the journey nonetheless. So let's go. So, the process. I have a list of more or less how I did this, and I did this over like 2 years. So when I say it's not a short process, I mean it. It's like a long. However, this is just because I did a lot of research, which took up a lot of my time, which is step one, research. Do your research. If you're thinking about publishing and you're not sure whether you want to go into self-publishing or publish through an agent and a publishing house, just do your research, see what's out there. See if there's any publishing houses that are taking poetry submissions, try and find the right agent. There's a lot that you can really explore. I'm not going to go into details of that because I very early on knew that I didn't want to go for a publishing house. I didn't want to go through all the kind of like formal ways of doing it. I kind of, as an independent girl, I was very much like, I want to do everything myself. I want to be like able to make decisions from A to Z. Like, I don't want anyone intervening, which, as a bit of a control freak, when you're going through another person, you don't have that full kind of like capacity of making the decisions. So yeah, I decided to do it all myself. That's why I self-published. But even with self-publishing, there's a lot of things that you can research to kind of make yourself aware of what's out there. So I had to take a quick break because I kept on sneezing and also my stomach was growling. So I was like, snack time. And also I've just realized that my bun looks like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, so enjoy that. However, back to the actual video and staying on topic, which I find so bloody difficult. If you know, you know. So, research. Even with self-publishing, there is a lot that you need to research in terms of the different platforms where you can self-publish. Obviously, the main one, which everyone kind of going into self-publishing, everyone who's going into self-publishing is aware of, is Amazon's KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing, and it's a very easy way to actually publish a book. So easy. I think I struggled only a little bit in terms of the front cover design, just because of the measurements and making sure that the book cover actually, was good. Like, you didn't have writing that was meant to be on the spine kind of halfway across it, printed, either on the spine and back cover or the spine and the front cover and stuff like that, making sure it's all centralized. But that's later. That's in the design bullet point. Yes, design, the fun part, if I'm being entirely honest. However, so obviously, yes, you have KDP, Amazon's KDP, to publish. That is probably the cheapest and simplest way to do it. But that's just publishing. That's not including the marketing and the sales aspect of self-publishing, which is an entirely different topic, and I will be saving that for another video. So subscribe, stay tuned, enjoy this chaos of me talking with my hands a lot. There are other websites out there that are really good in terms of self-publishing. Now I can't find notes on any of them. I guess that's some research for you to do, isn't it? Because apparently I didn't make good enough notes. So, yeah. However, the one aspect of self-publishing that people don't really consider nowadays, I think, is the publishing of poetry through magazines. There's a lot of poetry magazines out there where you can submit poems, individual poems. I've literally just had a snack. My stomach really be like, food. Chill. Anyway, but yes, magazines are a great aspect of getting your work out there if you are looking to publish for a publisher, or if you are looking to promote or bring attention to your self-published work. Another kind of really good way of getting your work out there without publishing it as a book is through a poetry blog. I know a lot of people use Tumblr or Blogspot. Blogger? Not Blogspot. Is it Blogger? I think it's Blogger. Who knows? In order to create kind of a platform where they can share their work, because they're not looking to publish as a book, and that's absolutely fine. Not everyone wants to publish a book, not everyone wants to publish poetry, even if it's self-published in a format so, strict and specific. Instagram is actually a pretty good way in order to create a very specific profile for yourself as a poet, to bring attention to it. Similarly with TikTok, you can read your poems on TikTok, you can use trending sounds, all to kind of bring your work to the masses, I guess. And it's not a very traditional way. These things didn't exist not that long ago. So it's very much a modern way of publishing your poetry in a non-traditional format. However, we are kind of moving along from research to publishing, which I find is very difficult to separate, because when you're researching, the majority of the time you're not researching poetry, you are researching the actual method of publishing the work that you have made. So that's why these two kind of Mexican wave, apparently. I was going to say mix into wine together. So that is your research. The one thing I will say with Instagram and TikTok, however, is that if you do plan to publish your poetry on there, it might take a long time for it to actually reach audiences because of the algorithms, which kind of sucks. However, if you kind of look at the trending sounds, you look at the trending poetry videos, and you kind of get a feel for what people are watching, what they're enjoying, what is getting the likes, you can kind of start to create content of your own. I was going to say content of your own, which is inspired by it. I will say do not mimic, because as soon as you start mimicking, you fall down the trap of kind of losing your own voice. And as a poet, as an artist, you don't want to do that. You want to stay true to yourself. However, there is nothing wrong with following the format in order to get the views and to bring in that audience and to get people watching and interacting, which is what is going to promote your videos, which will contain your poetry or your Instagram posts to further audiences and kind of spread the word further. So yeah, let's move on. So step number 2 of the process for me was choosing the work that I was going to include in this poetry book. And this was also a difficult process for me, because reading back on a lot of the poetry I wrote, I started to see how personal it was to me, and how a lot of poems were very specific to specific people and situations that we had experienced together. And like I said before, as someone who struggles with allowing people to see my vulnerable side, when I was looking through my work, I started to panic, because I was like, people are gonna know. They're gonna know I'm a softie. And how could I possibly lose my, Doberman persona? Like, come on. So, choosing your own work. For me, this was also a difficult process, because I realized that I didn't collect my poetry in one single place. My poetry was all over the place. I have been writing it since I can remember. I think I started probably around 13, 14, when I first started journaling. So a lot of my poems would be intermixed with like, dear diary, today this person did this, and so it was a lot of going through my journals, which I have a fat stack of. So it was just very time consuming. And then once I had those, I wanted to keep them in one place. So I was typing them all up and kind of creating one, almost like a database. Database, gosh, so American. This is not to offend Americans, it's just I'm in the UK, so, controversial. However, moving aside from the drama, yes, so I wanted to create a database where I had all my work in one place, where I could go through it, where I could put titles on it if I wanted to, where I could edit anything where I kind of thought, this doesn't quite work, whatever. And I decided to just do that on Google, on my Google Drive. I won't lie, I was like, I can create a folder, and then within the folder I could create other folders where I could collate all the work and separate it into different themes, which brings me on to the next 2 aspects on my list. So it's deciding the sections of my poetry book and editing. So a lot of people, when they self-publish, or whether they publish a book for a publishing house, might decide to have sections within their poetry book. And when I was choosing my work for this book, I knew that it was going to be a collection of my much older work, all the kind of stuff that I had written as a teenager. So I knew I wanted to put it into sections, and I naturally saw that there was a pattern within the work, and it kind of fell into 4 different sections. So like I said, in my Google Docs, I had created the little folders, and then within those folders, I started to order my poetry and think about which poems fitted in where, and kind of just played around with different ideas and the different themes, just to kind of create an overall kind of like umbrella for the poems, where you have the title of the poetry book and then the 4 different sections. For me, the sections are all very much reflective of when I was finishing high school or secondary school, so when I was doing my GCSEs and when I was doing my A-levels in sixth form or college. And yeah, that was an interesting thing for me to see, because I kind of realized that I had split my life into 4 different kind of parts, and there was 4 different parts to me at the time, and you could see that depending on what I was feeling, I could relate it to a different situation in my life, which then fitted into that theme. Some people may choose to not have sections in their poetry book at all, which I think is absolutely fine. It's not a necessary aspect of the book. But yeah, like I said, personally, I just saw the theme, I saw the trends within my writing, and I wanted to definitely order it so that the poems kind of felt connected to one another, even though they probably all describe very different and separate events. And then the editing aspect was just really nitpicking the words, the way that lines kind of flowed, where the line would end and the next one would begin, whether I was going to use punctuation or not, what letters and words would be capitalized. It was the kind of real detail of what I wanted each word and each line to mean and the effect I wanted it to have. So that took a very long time. I think that was about 5 months just to create my first draft, where I was like, okay, I kind of like this. I like how everything flows. Another process of the editing for me was just the actual order of how I wanted the poems to appear in the book. I knew what poem I wanted to start the book off with, and I knew what poem I wanted to end with. So naturally, I kind of got a feel for what sections were going to go where, the order for them. But then within the sections, I wanted to kind of discover the order for the poems themselves, and how I wanted it all to flow. And I realized very quickly that it was very much like an up and down, up and down, up and down flow. But I guess when I looked back at the poems and the poetry and I thought about the time when I wrote it, I was a hormonal teenager who was constantly up and down. And I thought, this is such a great representation of that time. And I just thought that, you know, even now when I'm in my mid-20s, I can still relate. So yeah, that is the editing in a very compact way. But the one thing I will say is editing is the boring aspect of self-publishing, because you don't have anyone else doing it for you. You're doing it all by yourself. But it is such an essential part, because this is when you're also catching any little spelling mistakes and things that you don't want going like forward and being published to people and then reading and being like, they used the wrong there instead of there. Like it's the little things like that where you're really, like I said, nitpicking and ripping it apart and being like, right, this is wrong, this, don't quite like it. And it can be a very brutal process because you have to be so self-critical. But at times I wanted to stop and quit because I was thinking, this is terrible, like no one's going to want to read it, everyone's going to just think it's terrible and why am I even bothering? And all these thoughts of self-doubt start to flood in, and as a very highly critical person myself already, it was a little bit of a soul-destroying process at times, because I would just read something that I had read a week before and I absolutely loved, and I would just thought, what the absolute, like, what even is this? It's utter trash. Like, no way do I want anyone to ever read that. So yeah, editing, necessary, extremely important, but brutal. But you gotta do it. If you want to create a good poetry book, you have to do it. If you don't care and you just want to publish, sure, skip it. However, I can tell you now that at the end of the day, you're not doing this just for yourself, you're doing it for other people. And I think it would be a massive disrespect if you didn't edit your book. And I'm not saying that my book is perfect, because I ordered a copy and I was embarrassed because I spotted a mistake, and I'm just so glad that I ordered a copy and was able to catch it and just be like, no. So edit your book, please, for the love of God, edit. Don't die on me, laptop. We need you. We need the list. So after editing, I decided to go into the fun part because my soul had been crushed and I needed a little uplift. So I did the design for my front cover, which was so fun. That didn't take me that long because as I was doing all the editing and stuff, I was just thinking about the design aspect so much that I was like, I already know. I know what I want. I know how I want it to look. I know what I want it to represent. I know how I want the colour, the writing, the style, everything. So the design part was just experimenting and seeing if the idea in my head could happen physically, which I'm very happy with, because I was fortunate enough. Oh, diction. See, acting. Follow for more. And please, when I finally get my acting series out, please give it a little love, because it's not just for the actors, it's for anyone who wants to feel more comfortable in everyday life. Perhaps. Maybe not. We'll see. Follow, subscribe. See for yourself. Anyway, enough with the hands. So yeah, with design, I spent a long time playing with different shades and whatnot, and getting it absolutely perfect. And once I had the design down and I uploaded it all to KDP, which I published through, I ordered myself a copy. And thank God I did, because this is what came. And I'm so excited. And this is the first copy I got. And I love the colour. Don't know if you can see. It's like a matte emeraldy green. And I have white writing. But you can probably see the design and the title and everything is not central. So that was a bit of an issue. And then the back cover I actually really liked. I liked the way it looked. I liked the placement of the text and the picture and the barcode, so that was fine. But the biggest bit of all was the spine. And I did already say this. The spine can leak onto the back or front cover. And that's why it's so important to do your editing and design carefully. So when I got this, my soul was crushed a little bit yet again. First of all, I was just so excited because I was like, oh my god, it's here. And then I had a more calm and critical and very analytical way of looking at it, and I was like, wow, front cover, bro, love it, but it's not central. Spine, mess. And the back, I like, so that's fine. And then I decided to look inside, and I don't know if you can see this, I realised that the text is tiny. So what did I do? I said, okay, fine. Made notes of everything that I didn't like, everything I wanted to change and improve on. And then I just enjoyed myself and I started reading. And I just kind of went through it again to spot any mistakes, to see if there was anything I needed to change, if anything didn't flow. And once I had made my notes and I had a whole list of what I needed to change, I went back to do what? More editing. And this is why I say that editing is so important. And yeah, I went back and I calmly and a little bit detached started to go over all the little notes I've made and made the amendments and made sure that I was happy. And then once I re-uploaded everything to KDP. And the way that you do this is you upload the manuscript separately to the front cover, and then you can have like a little kind of flick through digitally of what it will all look like. And then I decided to publish, and it bounced. The kind of like request bounced, and they said, your spine writing isn't within the lines. Actually, overall, it took me about 5 attempts for the front cover to be within the correct measurements and to be able for the request to be processed and for the book to be uploaded to Amazon's marketplace. But it happened, we got there, and now I can say I'm a self-published poet, which is pretty daunting, but also exciting. So yeah, that was kind of the process for me. A lot of the kind of like steps that I've mentioned are the very kind of like overall steps you do. Obviously, after the editing aspect, I kept on looking for the right platform, kind of still exploring different options because I wasn't sure if Amazon KDP was definitely the one for me. Alongside this, the pre-publishing aspect of it was kind of deciding how I wanted to go about letting people know, marketing the book, and kind of all the little intricacies that happen once the book is ready for readers to buy. But that, my lovely little darlings, I will save for another video so that you can join me again and embrace the chaos that I bring. But honestly, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed or if you want to find out more and follow along the process. I'll be doing a lot more kind of behind the scenes as I work on my second poetry book. And if you are interested in reading my lovely little collection of poems, you can find it on Amazon. It's called It Is What It Is by A.W. Glod, yours dearly. And yeah, thank you so much. See you next week.